This is Beatmaking episode 8. We're starting right now. In this episode, we're going to discuss something very important. This something makes your song punchy, makes it sound good, and lifts up your song to the next level. We're talking about sidechain. Now, sidechain itself has a different meaning, but it is used to refer to the volume of an instrument dipping as the kick hits, or the snare that gives a nice effect too. Now, I've already made a video on this, including 4 ways on how to sidechain in LMMS, but I'm gonna do this again for you. Let me give you a demo. So here's some strings without sidechain. And now let's throw in the sidechain. Notice how the strings dip in volume when the kick hits. Clearly it sounds a lot better, and if this were to be used with bass, it will make your song clearer as the bass line of your drum doesn't interact with the actual bass. Remember the high pass on our chords? Sidechain helps us clear up the bass too. A song without sidechain usually sounds bad when you listen to it on speakers. That's not even talking about bass boosting. So overall, this is a pretty important thing, unless you won't be using drums. Anyways, let's real quick figure out how this works. So, sidechain consists of a signal and a receiver. The signal is what causes the sidechain. The receiver takes that signal and dips the volume. In LMMS, they both come as effects. The beat controller effect is used for the signal, and any knob can act as a receiver. In our case, we can use a sidechain compressor effect. This one is specifically made for taking that signal and dipping the volume. Okay, so how do we go about this setup? First, add in the triple oscillator. This will be used for our signal. You can either put this in the pattern editor or in the song editor. The song editor will require you to place 1/16th notes where you want a sidechain, and the pattern editor will require you to click on the boxes. We can technically use any audio for the signal, so we can even use our kick instead, but if there are places you want a sidechain without having a kick, it won't work without an external signal. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and place this in the song editor. I'm used to doing it this way and it gives me more control. You can use the pattern editor if you want, but in case it doesn't work there, you can follow me. So now that we have this instrument, let's add in the effect. Go to the effects tab and add in the beat controller effect. You get some knobs. The effects are set up correctly by default. You just need to turn bass to 0 and turn on mute effect. This ensures we don't hear the sound from this instrument and it only sends a signal. Now that the signal is set up, let's go ahead and add a receiver. Go to the strings, add the sidechain compressor effect. Now first of all, we're going to link these up. Now remember how the signal is generated by a beat controller? This effect sends a signal to a controller. By default, this controller will be called controller 1. If you want to see it, open the controller rack. You can right click and rename it too. I'll leave it as is. Anyways, come back to our receiver effect. Right click on the SC level knob. From the menu that appears, click connect to controller. In the window that pops up, click on the user controller button. The menu is set to controller 1 as it is the only controller. If there were more controllers, you could click here and pick the right one. Once you're done selecting, click OK. Finally, the last thing you should do is crank up this ratio. I find 2 to 3 to be a nice amount. I won't explain all these knobs, but just so you know, this is attack and this is release. I think you know what these mean already. And once you're done with this setup, you have your sidechain. Now, if you want to sidechain multiple instruments, you can use one signal, and thus one controller, to control all the receivers. Let's say we want to sidechain the bass guitar. Add the sidechain compressor effect there, connect the SC level knob to the same controller, and finally set the ratio, attack, and release. So go ahead and add it to the bass guitar, and the verse chords as well. There is a better way to do this all, but I will show this to you in a later episode. Okay, so we have a sidechain setup. Before we continue, let's duplicate our verse once. It should look like this. Now let's add in the actual drums. But before that, there's something I need to address. As many have pointed out, the drip pack isn't up on stores. Now we have 2 ways out of this. Either we get drip from another source or we use another pack. Now for the former, a kind viewer has sent a direct link to download it. I'll keep that link in the description too. Thank you, kind viewer. And for the latter, you can go and get the EDM starter pack. From now onwards, I'll be using this one. You can stick with drip and you'll have your own original sound, but since getting the other pack is more straightforward, I'll be using that as the reference. So go ahead and click on the second link in the description. There you will find this new pack. Download it and install it. Once you're done with that, add in a beat and bassline track. Now let's drag in some samples. I like these ones. Now click on add steps and place a pattern like this. Turn down the volumes around 70 to 80 for now. Now go ahead and apply sidechain. Double click on a box and place notes like so, and click on a box on the beat and the bassline track to add in the beat. Duplicate the sidechain clip a bunch of times, and place in the beat there as well. If you want, you can add in that riser from the intro here. In the end, it should sound like this. You can fine-tune the drum volumes if you want, or maybe create your own pattern. It's up to you. And that marks the end of today's episode. I hope to see you in the next one as well, but for now, bye.